Your Excellencies, honored guests, representatives of many different religious traditions, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you on behalf of the IKDP for accepting our invitation and for joining us here today. Welcome to Prague, welcome to the Carolinum, and many thanks to Charles University and the rector specifically for hosting us here today. The color red today does not stand for any particular political movement or any single community. It's here as a universal reminder of the cost of intolerance and also the shared responsibility that we all have for upholding freedom of conscience for all people all over the world. Because belief or faith, according to Saint Thomas Aquinas, is an act of the intellect, assenting to the truth at the command of the will. It is an act that is supremely profound and rooted in the depths of our conscience. It's also the foundation of our Western way of life. But religious hatred remains ever present. The dignity of millions of people around the world is every day at risk of discrimination or violence. This is a very political, very profane phenomenon arising from power. And I do hope that this conference, your contributions, your discussions, will all shed some more light on these experiences, the good and the bad, and will remind us and the public that the right to believe, the right to worship, and to live without religious affiliation, these are fundamental human freedoms. These are rights that belong to everyone, everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome on this Red Wednesday. My hope is that we will renew our commitment to dialogue and understanding, as well as solidarity. We all must raise our voices, not just today, all year round, for those whose voices are being suppressed, whose bodies are being broken and killed, and work towards a world where everyone can freely and without fear live in accordance with their convictions. Thank you and welcome. So that was Eduard Hulicius. Thank you very much. Originally, we were supposed to have Minister of Justice Eva Dekora here with us, but unfortunately she couldn't. There were some last-minute changes. The discussions at the Chamber of Deputies ran longer than expected, so she apologizes, but at least greets our conference virtually. And we also must hear from those who are clearly affected by these issues, representatives of religious institutions. So now I want to invite up here three people, three gentlemen representing the organizers. Stanislav Přibyl on behalf of the Czech Bishop Conference, Marián on behalf of the Ecumenical Council of Churches, and Tomáš Kraus representing the Federation of Jewish Communities. I also want to welcome you all. I'm very glad that this activity, the conference and the Red Wednesday as a whole, that these have been quite successful in the Czech Republic, that the initiative is still growing. Now, I am a Catholic, and Katholikon in Greek means universal, global, open. And the problem of Christianity, or Christians who are persecuted for their faith, is something that affects us all. After all, St. Paul tells us that when in Christ's body, which is the church, when something happens to one part, or the whole body suffers. So we never as Christians can say that the suffering of others who suffer for their faith does not concern us. Of course it does. It concerns us very profoundly, existentially. And therefore I'm very glad that we have this platform that can draw attention to these things, that we can think about these things together, and we can search for solutions and perhaps even find them for how to reduce the suffering of so many people who suffer for their faith and from their conscience. On behalf of the Czech Bishop Conference, I'm very glad that we're part of this. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, let me greet you on behalf of the Ecumenical Council of Churches in the Czech Republic. The bishop mentioned he's a Catholic. I'm a Lutheran, but also a bit of a Catholic in this sense of the generalness of the Church. This is something I'm very proud to subscribe to. As a representative of the Ecumenical Council of Churches, I represent all the churches in the Czech Republic that want to maintain the freedom of religion and freedom of worship everywhere in society. That's, in fact, one of the part of what we do, and that's the whole purpose of our mission as the Ecumenical Council. We keep looking for ways how to prevent this chaos that we see in the world. And you can prevent the chaos by sticking to the right values, the values that are real. And we will not relativize them, but we will keep them, and we will keep the content of the values such as truth and justice and freedom as much as we can. And if we find a moment where these values are being relativized, we need to raise our voice. Let me wish you this conference to be fruitful, to raise this voice in society, and to support true values and what these values actually mean, like truth, justice, and freedom. Good afternoon. Also from me, here I am representing the Federation of Jewish Communities of the Czech Republic, though I am not its official representative anymore. But the Red Wednesday, yes, that was the three of us, actually. Not in person, but our institutions. These three institutions, and I have to say, this is quite unusual in the global context. This is a specific aspect of our Czech society, because we knew each other, and we've had so many projects together, and we thought we definitely need to do something like this together to all support one excellent idea, the Red Wednesday. That's why we are here. Mr. Hulicius mentioned a crucial word here, why we have to meet here, and that is hatred. When we started 7 years ago, it wasn't all that visible what was happening in the world, because we kept getting information about persecution of Christians, mainly around the world, continents that still remain exotic to us. And we thought we must not keep silent, but we never realized this would affect us personally. I'm now specifically talking for myself, because we know now that anti-Semitism, the hatred towards Jews, has always been a marginal thing in this country. And perhaps it still remains largely on the outskirts. If you look at the statistics from countries around the world, even not that far away from us. But what is the common threat in the persecution of Christians and persecution of anyone for their faith? That's hatred. And hatred is often purely irrational. It's just a mindset. It's something that gives people an excuse why to hate. And I think that this is something we need to respond to. That's why we are here today. And this is not the first time, and unfortunately it's not the last time either. But it is very pressing these days. So thank you for your interest, and thank you for keeping this shared idea alive and carrying the torch after the end of this conference. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the representatives of our religious communities. And the final speaker in this introduction will be Pavel Svoboda, who is currently the ambassador of the Czech Republic at the Holy See in Vatican, and who I think could be called the spiritual father of Red Wednesday in the Czech Republic.
Excellencies, diplomats, Your Excellency Bishop, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, I'm very happy that I have this opportunity to speak at this conference. Freedom of religion seems to be the litmus test of human rights in general. That means that if there's an issue with the freedom of religion, there may be an issue with other human rights as well. If that is true, the situation around human rights in the world is not good, and it is worsening. Persecution of Christians, for example, in Nigeria, mentioned even by Pope Leo XIV this Sunday during the Angelus. The persecution in Nicaragua or the digital gulag in China are clearly only the tip of the iceberg. As the Secretary of State, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, recently stated at the presentation of the 2025 report on religious freedom in the world, the protection of religious freedom does not concern only believers or the church, but it goes beyond that. It reaches the whole of society and public international institution, and it is a sign of civilization. Let me quote, "It is a cornerstone of the edifice of contemporary human rights." End of quote. Cardinal Parolin also quoted from the report, which we will hear about a lot today. He said that religious freedom was seriously restricted in 62 out of 196 UN countries, and this affects approximately 5.4 billion people. That means that almost 2/3 of the world's population live in countries where severe violations of religious freedom occur. Therefore, our conference is unfortunately more topical than ever. This year, on the 7th of December, we will commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Second Vatican Council's declaration called Dignitatis Humanae, on the right of the person and of communities to social and civil freedom in matters of religion, as well as the equally significant address by Cardinal Beran on this very topic. I wish this conference every success. I wish you all to benefit from it, and I wish you all a blessed Advent. Thank you very much.
Děkujeme Pavlovi Svobodovi.
Thank you, Pavel Svoboda.